of Dreamers and Doers. My co-host today, Julie Russell, is not here today, so I will be doing this solo. But I do have a very interesting guest, and we will be talking about a true doer, not just a dreamer. I want to tell you about some of my upcoming events. On Saturday, September 14th at 4 p.m., I'll be at the Connecticut Schooner Festival talking about my book, Mystic Seafarer's Trail, and that should be a lot of fun. There's also a chowder fest chowder festival, contest and everything. So it's not just the schooners coming in. For people interested in learning how to self-publish, I'm giving a talk on Monday, September 16th. That's with the New London Continuing Ed. So you would need to sign up for that in advance if you're interested in registering. You can give me a call or email me. On Monday night, I'm at the same place in New London High School. I'm teaching how to get your book or short story published. Again, that's through New London Continuing Ed, so you would need to register. On Monday, September 30th, I'll be talking about Mystic Seafarer's Trail and the Seven Wonders at Madison Senior Center in Connecticut. And today I want to talk about an event that's coming up and also the people involved. On Saturday, October 5th, I'm going to be speaking about Martha Washington, the First Lady, the very first First Lady. I will be speaking to her about her at Martha Washington's Tea Party, and that's hosted by the Connecticut Daughters of the American Revolution, the Anna Warner Bailey chapter. Did I say that right, Janet?
You sure did.
Okay, we're lucky enough today to have Janet, Regent of the chapter. Can you just tell us what Daughters of American Revolutionary, what does it do, the club, what does the chapter do, where do you meet, just anything?
Well, our mission is to promote historic preservation, education, and patriotism, first of all. We're a national organization with the Connecticut or state chapters, and then we are part of the state chapter. With the Anna Warner Bailey chapter. We meet at Fort Griswold, right here in Groton.
That's a great place to meet. I love meeting there because you are really steeped in history. When you're sitting there among those artifacts with that secret tunnel that's still there at the fort that I love to walk through. Anyway, it's a great place to meet. It is.
Abby Day Slocum founded our chapter, which was the 11th in the state back in 1893. And actually, her house is still standing across from Fort Griswold.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Oh, is it anything anybody can
No, I believe it's a condominium now.
Okay.
But at that time, she formed the chapter and became the first regent. And they named it after Anna Warner Bailey, who had ties to the area. And as a side note, she was also instrumental in getting the park made into a state park.
Oh, really?
So that they could preserve it all.
And these are the kinds of things that the Daughters of American Revolution do.
Right.
Is they are perpetuating history, getting to make sure people know where things happened and everything. Like I was fascinated to read your scrapbook about a graveyard that I only discovered recently. Tell me a little bit more about that graveyard, because I want people to know about it so they can visit it.
Well, it's hidden. It's behind True Value on Route 27 in Mystic. And we, about 15 years ago, we rededicated the iron gates that are there that had originally been put up to honor the 13 Revolutionary soldiers that are buried there.
Oh, they are. There are. Okay, Revolutionary
13
soldiers. Okay, because it's a small graveyard.
It's very small.
Hidden. And I parked, I think when I went there, I parked at the hotel, I think. Is
right
that
nearby? Probably, yes,
yeah.
Because there really isn't much parking.
And it's near the hamburger place. Like I think I drove in that little way near the hardware store.
Dunkin' Donuts is in front, and then True Value, and then the cemetery is behind there.
Yes, and what I thought was really interesting about it was that, I call it a crypt, but you're calling it a mausoleum.
Mausoleum.
Where the door was off its hinge, and I was really scared to look in there in case there was a dead body or something.
It wasn't off the hinge when we were there.
Oh, it was off the hinge, a big heavy thing. anything. And so I took my flashlight and I looked around, and it's empty, and it just had little shelves. And I think I read or heard that that's where they put the bodies until they could bury them in the spring when the ground thawed. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, so that may not be a mausoleum then, because those doors are usually sealed, and there are family tombs within.
Yeah, no, there was nobody in there, but there were little shelves, and it was kind of creepy. But they were narrow shelves. I don't see how you'd put a whole coffin.
No.
So I was picturing just bodies, just maybe really, at least wrapped in a cloth, but laying there. It's very creepy, but of course very interesting.
Well, we scrubbed all the stones. We learned how
we
learned how to clean the lichen off of the stones.
Again, this is what DAR does.
Yes.
These are the kinds of things they do. I mean, I do a lot of research and writing from graveyards. I first find a stone that I'm interested in and then do research. So maybe some of these stones that I found might have been cleaned off by somebody from the DAR.
That could very well be. I know people have ruined them, unfortunately, over the years by doing gravestone rubbings.
Oh, that's not good for them?
And it's not good for them.
Oh,
and they've used bleach and sharp instruments to clean them, and you can't do that. You can only use water and a soft brush.
And another thing I noticed, the little flags, like that'll often attract me to somebody's stone. If I see a flag, DAR puts those down as well, don't
Well,
they?
we did, but I think the Boy Scouts in the area do the flags
they
now
take that
in
up.
most of the cemeteries.
Okay. Oh, well, anyway, so thank you for taking care of that graveyard, because I just discovered it about 3-4 months ago, and I had a ball in there.
Well, we were very fortunate because one of the members' husbands was a stonemason. So he repaired the fence, the stone walls around, and the fence was repaired. So it was when it was 100 years old, so now it's been 115 years.
Like,
so
in fact,
we rededicated the whole thing.
In fact, I enjoyed it so much that when my husband was asking, what should we do today? He was asking me this on Sunday. So let's go to that graveyard.
Well, great.
On Route 27, he said, no, I've been there. You know, so to me, I think that's a fun Sunday afternoon.
Oh, graveyards have so much history, and the stories that can be found in them are fascinating.
Now, I'm very interested in some of the stories that you know about why the chapter that meets at Fort Griswold is called Anna Warner Bailey. Who is she?
Well, she was orphaned as a young child, and her name at that time, of course, was Anna Warner. So she went to live with her grandparents and aunt and uncle out in Candlewood Hill, which would be Candlewood Road off Route 184 in Center Groton.
Okay.
And when the British under Benedict Arnold attacked New London, her uncle, Edward Mills, raced to the fort to join in the defense of the fort. And he did not return the next morning, so she walked the 3 miles to find him.
Oh gosh, was she young
She was, I believe she was about 23.
Okay.
She was in her very early 20s.
All right, so she walked to find it 3 miles,
He had left her home to take care of the grandparents, and he and his wife had a child as well as a 1-week-old baby. So when she got to the fort, the Avery House at that point, Ebenezer Avery House, had been used as a holding point for those that were wounded. So she found him there very badly.
He was at the house.
He was at that house, very badly wounded. So she returned home and gathered up his wife and the 2 children and brought them back to the fort to see him. And she was able to lay his 1-week-old baby in his arms as he lay dying, which I found very emotional.
Yeah, that's really sad.
But it just increased her, despite of the British at that point, and she vowed to find revenge of some sort. So
and she did find revenge, which is a fascinating story, so tell me that.
Okay. Well, that wasn't until the War of 1812 when Decatur's ships came down the Thames, and everyone thought again they were going to be invaded.
Yeah, because that wasn't... Yeah, okay.
That was the War of 1812, but I believe the actual year was the following year, 1813, when they came back into the Thames. And
now she's a lot older.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was married to Elijah Bailey, actually, not too long after the Battle of Fort Griswold. So by that time, she had become known as Mother Bailey.
Oh, Mother Bailey.
She had no children of her own, but she and her husband had... their home was a tavern down on the corner of Broad Street and Thames Street in Groton.
Is that still?
The home is still there.
Oh,
it's
really?
Still there.
Is that a private residence? So
I believe either the City of Groton or the Historical Society has bought it.
Oh.
And there are hopes of renovating and restoring it.
That'd be fun. Okay.
So everyone else had left town because of the impending battle.
Okay.
And one of the soldiers had come down from the fort looking for flannel for wadding for the cannons because they had run out. And she, being the robust woman that she was, stood in the middle of the street and loosened her petticoat and grandly dropped it and lifted it to him and handed it to him with an exclamation that her wish was that it would do what it should do.
Against the British.
Against the British.
Wow.
And in those days they didn't talk about petticoats, never mind taking them off in the middle of the street.
Right, right.
So she became so famous, actually, for that. Word spread out through the nation that presidents and actually it was President Andrew Jackson, President Monroe at that time, and General Lafayette came to see her personally at her home.
Because of her petticoat.
Because of the petticoat. They wanted to hear from her own lips, and of course she gladly regaled everyone with this.
So she was a storyteller?
She loved telling stories. And she would prance around her room in an outfit like this.
Is this an outfit like this? Okay.
This is one that would have been worn more to a social event.
This is, now what years would you call this fashion that you're wearing?
Well, actually, this was, I made this in 1976 for our bicentennial at that time, and have remade it a couple times so I could. I've enlarged it so I could wear it.
You look so skinny, so I can't imagine.
Worn it a few times over, but so I wear the more formal ones. Very often the girls will wear. And we don't wear them to meetings, of course.
So this is a form. This
more
is
of a formal,
and you're going to wear this to the Martha Washington Tea.
Yes, I am.
On October 5th, Saturday, October 5th. You're going to be wearing that as Regent, and you said the Ida wears hers.
Ida Mansella will be wearing her, which would be more of a work daily dress with the apron and so forth, and then the mob cap is what they would have worn for that.
Be wearing that one?
And so she has a mob cap.
And this is what I feel like I only see one picture of Martha Washington, and it always looks like she's wearing that. It's such an unflattering.
Yes, it is.
I feel bad for her because
that's why I chose this one today.
Okay. But yeah, that seems unflattering. So I never actually studied her much, but then I started getting interested in learning more about her, and I found out as First Lady it was really her role to launch these reception parties for her husband, and that she set the pace for the rest of the First Ladies that came after her. I found out.
She did.
But she got her. She learned from Europe. She followed after the European way of having teas and socials, and she had a formal reception every Friday. And I heard, but she would rather have just stayed at home quietly.
Yes, yes. But now, many, many years afterwards, they had what they called Martha Washington Tea Parties in her honor, and tried to do them as she did. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to learn more about that before I talk, and then you can help me out, I guess, when I'm talking about.
Well, with the fundraiser, we thought it would be fun to do something a little different. So.
Yeah, and the funds go towards scholarships and.
We give a Good Citizens Award. There are 5 high schools, and the schools select one student from each school for the award, and then we give the American History Awards in February, March, from 6 elementary schools.
Okay, and they have to write a little paper?
For the American history, they write an essay. Now with the Good Citizens, they can write an essay and be eligible for a scholarship, as well as the American history scholarships. So those are 2 of our big
things
efforts
that you do with the funds, and and I'm excited to speak at it and to just go to the tea because I went last year and nobody makes sandwiches like you guys.
Oh, well,
I mean, they're just so easy to pick up and dainty, and
it's fun.
I had a lot. I probably should have made sure everybody else had some, but there was plenty. I remember thinking there is plenty.
We always have plenty of food.
So I love that, and the real china. So the Daughters of American Revolution bring their china.
We all will take it and set up tables, and each one of us will be responsible for a table.
For a table, yeah, because I think I remember things on each table kind of matched each other. So like somebody would bring in their china for that table.
Correct.
It was beautiful.
Oh,
I
thank you.
loved it, and
Yeah.
I met some very interesting people when I went last
Yeah.
year, people that really enjoy history, and I learned a lot of interesting
This will be our
things.
5th year, and I'm very happy that you're going to be our speaker. I think
Oh,
that'll
I'm
be very
excited.
different. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be
like I
great.
said, and I'm excited to learn. I feel a little of a kinship to Martha Washington because, like me, she had a child die during a seizure. So I've been very active trying to raise awareness for why my daughter had epilepsy in the first place. Hers was very uncontrolled. And so, in fact, after my daughter died in the middle of a seizure, somebody said, I think it was my father, told me that George Washington held Martha's daughter in his arms when she died of a seizure.
Oh, that I didn't know. That's
Yes, I'm going
interesting.
to look that up a little bit more just so I can get the facts straight. But I just felt like not only is she worried about what's going on with the country and her husband's role in the country, she's already lost two children when they were younger. She had these two older ones when she married George Washington. And then for one of them to have epilepsy, you're always kind of on edge. This is, I'm sure, the day, I don't know what they treated people with epilepsy with in those days. If she was always tense, oh no, she's having a seizure, so I can sense a little bit of what she went through. And then she outlived all her children and her husband. And I heard when he died, she closed up the bedroom.
Yeah, that's why it's very fascinating once you start reading about the people of the past, that they're the reason we're here, actually.
Right.
And if it had not been for what they did and for our trying to protect the past to ensure our future, then you do learn all the personal stories and feel
And like I said, I love the Anna Warner Bailey story. I love hearing it, and we're going to be talking about that in September. Just the date was what is it?
September 6th.
September 6th is the DAR meeting for members and their guests.
Correct.
To hear the story of the Battle of Fort Griswold.
Well, actually, it's the Battle of Groton Heights.
Okay, excuse me. Yes, the Battle of Groton Heights.
Yes.
Okay, at Fort Griswold. And I just thought that was interesting. In my book, Mystic Seafarer's Trail, I didn't cover it that much because it was getting a little off topic. However, in my column that I have for a new magazine in town, I may want to write about it more. Because I love that you can go there and still see the tunnel. You can still see the mounds of earth. You can still see a lot of what they were seeing.
We played there as children.
Oh, did you? You were allowed then? Are you allowed now? I guess you're allowed.
You're allowed to tour it.
Yeah.
But before it was really made a state park,
Right.
We just played up there. But,
well, I just thought that was interesting because I'd always heard about Benedict Arnold and how horrible he is, but I didn't really know beyond that what he did. And when I heard he burned New London and he was, in charge of that massacre on the hill there.
Well, one of the ancestor I went through for DAR was Captain Hubbard Burroughs. And I recently read where he was the first one killed at that battle,
Really?
which I hadn't known.
Has your family been in this area that long?
Yes, actually, I just became a charter member of the Colonial Dames 17th century. So I had to put together 11 generations.
Okay.
So the Burroughs go back to the 1600s.
And I see that name Burroughs on a lot of the dead people that I visit. So those old dead folks are yours?
They're all mine. Burroughs and Dennison and
really?
Haley.
You descend from them as well?
Haley,
oh, that's fascinating.
I have a lot of them in this area. And of course, once you get started in genealogy, it's very hard to stop.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was thrilled when I
off.
found out I was related to Captain Sisson. I just happened to be studying him for a totally different reason.
Yeah.
Studying the people he was involved with,
And that's
having no idea.
That's the Lower Mystic Cemetery.
Yeah, having no idea that I had dead folks here. Because that kind of makes you feel at home when you can visit. When you can visit your dead.
They're everywhere.
I know. I'm sure a lot of people are like me, have no idea that they have relatives buried in this area because this area was founded so long ago.
But it's their struggle that brought us our freedom. And so as DAR, we need to ensure that continues.
Right, and that we all appreciate it, and just, with immigrants coming over, and what people suffer to get over here, to enjoy the freedom that many of us do take for granted.
That's very true.
We're used to being able to say what we want to say, and wear outfits like that if we,
I
if we want to.
I wouldn't on the street, but yes.
I know, I was a little disappointed. You said you wanted to come here and change. I thought, oh, why don't you drive in that? But then I thought, well, maybe there's some skirt that's too difficult to drive in. I drive in my Civil War outfit.
Oh, do you?
And it's difficult.
Yeah.
And a little convertible, this big hoop skirt sticks over my steering wheel, and I have to keep shoving it down to drive. So I didn't know if you were facing that.
Yeah,
or
well, this had a bustle. I decided I didn't need all the bustle behind me, so.
Oh, so those colonial clothes do have a bustle. What is that, like a little padding that you wrap
no,
around
actually,
your
it's
waist, or what is it?
almost, well, in those days they were horsehair, but it's a very stiff crinoline type of a fabric that's gathered and goes out the back. And
Okay.
and it would puff out the sides of this, too.
Oh, but like just the right and left side, not the back so much? Because what are those clothes that I'm seeing, or is that like
Those are a little bit,
1600s?
yeah, those are a little bit different. This
Okay.
would have been more from the sides around to the back.
Now, does Ida get to wear
No,
those kind of?
no,
she doesn't. She's wearing the
in a
everyday,
daily dress. Right.
in the everyday dress, but you get to be the knockout with the little with the cuter hat.
Yes. It's fun.
Would you consider that an authentic dress? Is that an authentic pattern?
Yes, it was.
Oh, really?
Well,
okay.
in 1976 when I made it, the patterns were out with the various
Like so
variations.
So that could have been the exact style that somebody
It should have
wore.
been, because the pattern at that time when I bought it.
And how about the fabric? Would they have had little flowers? Do you think these colors?
Probably not. Well, I don't know. Yeah, by that time, probably yes. And
Now-
the lace.
Now, looking at the dress, show your sleeves again. There's little things about these dresses that are actually dangerous, and so I'd like you to share. It's really kind of tragic how Anna Warner Bailey died, but when you told me how she died, it's believable certainly, because the second leading cause of death at that time was fire after childbirth. Dying. Can you imagine those being the top two reasons a woman's going to die in that period?
Well, they had so much clothing, of course, to keep warm in
Right.
the wintertime, but it's bulky and it's full. And in this case, yes.
So tell me how. I already kind of gave it away. Sorry.
Well,
for
no,
TV land, but
that's quite
tell the story of how she died and what happened.
Well, it was in January of 1851. After dinner, she was resting by the fire and fell asleep, and unfortunately, her clothes caught on fire. And as it turns out, my great-grandfather had a shipyard across the street, and they heard
This is where again?
on Thames Street,
On Thames Street.
and
Okay.
the Ferguson boatyard was right across the street, and my great-grandfather and some of his men, this is the story handed down, tried to get into the house, and it was locked. So they finally forced the door open, but they couldn't save her. She was gone within the hour. But yeah, it was rather tragic.
That's a horrible. Because she must have woken up, or maybe she died of smoke inhalation.
Probably.
Let's hope that's how
That's
she died,
probably.
because that sounds like
Yeah.
better than.
But it was less than an hour, so yeah. But she was asleep when her clothing caught fire, so
Yeah.
hopefully she didn't feel anything.
For reenactors and everything, I always kind of worry about that. And I got caught, because I do more presentations on the Civil War era, and my dress is not authentic. Somebody pointed that out when I went to a reenactment. Is that dress authentic?
Yeah.
And those dresses cost like $1,000. I said, no, and I had mine red with white polka dots, which they never would have worn. Street women would have worn something like that. But I like red, so I had my cousin make me a red dress with a hoop skirt. But anyway, I feel like I'm caught on things. It's hard to get around. So those clothes aren't dangerous, really.
They really are.
So it's better to wear the
And not that
spandex,
comfortable.
Right? Oh, you're not comfortable?
Well,
You kinda look
no,
comfortable.
this one's okay.
Oh.
And actually, the everyday ones are so full, and once they just wrap an apron around, then they can be comfortable.
So do you want to talk a little bit about how somebody would find out if they can become a member of DAR? How do you do that?
Yes, any woman 18 years or older, regardless of race or religion, ethnic background, can become a member if they can just prove lineage to an American patriot or from the American Revolution.
Now, how would you, do you do your own genealogy, or how would it?
We have people in the chapter that would help.
That would help.
And we have a state from the state DAR also.
Okay,
are
and they
always
would go
there to help.
What different databases in the library you can find things out on, censuses?
I was very fortunate because my grandmother and my aunts were all members.
Oh, that makes it so much easier.
So I already had all of theirs done, and I only had to do from my father to my genealogy. So I had one line. And
I kind of got lucky for the first person that I got DAR'd. I don't know what the right term is under, but my aunt had done the work. But I still, just getting the birth certificate and death certificate of my grandfather was difficult. I had to get those papers. So I was calling all around to get them, and it's not so easy. So, and then when my mother found out that we had a lot more patriots, as presents to her, she wanted me to do the work of getting her DAR'd so she could have more pins on her her sash, or the, what do you call those pins? The ancestor
or just
pins.
your ancestor pin.
Okay, she wanted to have a lot of those pins because, well, that lady has more. I have more than she does, really. You know, if you would just do the work and get those pins for me. So I did. Then I did have to go from scratch, and luckily I had some people in the family that helped me do that. And I got tired after doing two more. I did Henry Gale. He's the one I gave the talk on. Who was, you know, the alarm, the Lexington alarm, and that battle, Bunker Hill. And he was the one who ended up getting found guilty for treason.
Oh, right.
You know,
I remember that.
So I thought, well, I have to get DAR'd under him because I like writing and talking about him, because it wasn't just they fought for their country. They're still fighting to not, you know, after the war is over, they needed money. They had to get paid. A lot of them weren't paid. I mean, these patriots really suffered during the war because a lot of them weren't getting any kind of money. And that's why you always hear of the hungry, starving soldiers and the bare feet.
That's very true.
So anyway,
but we do have people that will help with the papers. We have volunteer genealogists.
That's good. So as long as you at least know who your parents are and
and some idea of how far you want to go back.
Are there any? Do people get any surprises along the way? Like, ooh, I'm not really descended from this person. Or?
I don't know if they've done that, but sometimes there's a stumbling block. But again, if you have someone helping you, we have some very good people that know where to go for it.
All right. Well, we only have about a minute left. Is there anything else you want to say?
Well, if anybody is interested in becoming a member, prospective members are also invited to our meetings. They can contact me.
Okay, great.
We have a website which isn't updated at the moment, but will be.
Right, they can at least see where it meets and everything. Again, okay, well, thank you very much for coming on our show. I will be, again, speaking Saturday, October 5th from 2 to 4. The tea is Martha Washington's Tea Party will be at St. Mark's Episcopal Church on 15 Pearl Street, Mystic, Connecticut. And that's where, if you come to this fundraiser, you will not only hear about Martha Washington's tea, but you get to eat these little finger sandwiches that nobody can make better than these ladies right here. Thank you for joining our show, and we'll see you next week.